Our next panel, why skills to compete matters, would be Kim Wilms, Jim Stewart, and Justin Duffy. And Jim Azamato.
You're going to join us?
Okay. On the other paper. Good morning and welcome to each of you.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you.
Please proceed at your
Thank you,
own choosing.
Chair Witt, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Jim Azamano, and I'm the director of the Education Research Institute of the Northwest Food Processors Association in Portland. You probably already know this from your other hearings, but over 25% of Oregon's land is in agriculture production, and as you know, that's for food, and so processed food adds value to our Oregon crops and fruits. You know, it's restating the obvious, but to put it in perspective, we need air, we need water, and we need food. We have 185 food processors in Oregon with a payroll of about $508 million annually. Oregon feeds the world, and we represent about 55,000 food manufacturing employees in Washington, Idaho, and Oregon. And after several years of decline this last year, the food processors in Oregon were the only industrial sector to increase their total jobs. Now we're up to about 22,500. And most of those jobs are middle-scale jobs. So in our smaller to medium food processors, we're probably 85 to 90% middle-scale jobs, and in our larger companies that are branch plants of national brand name corporations, we're probably 90% or more middle-scale jobs. But if you hang out and mingle in some of the break rooms at any of these plants, you can't help but become aware of the increased discussion about golfing or fishing or whatnot, that you can really tell that some people are starting to plan on retirement. You sort of get the implied message that we're not going to stay here forever. This is not new, and I'm sure you've heard it for many, many years, but what's going to happen to us in the next decade, you're talking about, Representative Holvey was talking about Graham Slater's data, and that hits it right on, that work that they did. For the next decade, this frequency of retirement talk is going to happen more than we ever dreamed. It's way out of proportion of any other decade. And so we need to replace these workers with a different kind of worker, because the food industry has leaned itself down so that we don't have as many middle managers to do supervision and training. So the new middle skilled worker that we're looking for in the food industry is the cognitive, innovative technician. And there's not a lot of job descriptions that have that yet, and there's not a lot of courses in cognitive or innovation technology. So we are spending our time communicating in partnerships with community colleges and educators to emphasize the need for somebody that not only follows orders in technician and electricians and plumbers, pipe fitters, and so forth. We need people that can analyze the trends of the problems after several repeated occurrences to create new ways to do preventative maintenance. And so we need thinking people that do more than just creative repair. We need people to create new technologies, to invent something in the company, to create a machine that didn't exist before rather than repair the one they've got. So at the Northwest Food Processors, our Innovation Productivity Center, we're seeking new ways to distribute the job openings as they occur, and want to increase our participation in the development of an education of a new ready-to-work workforce. That's one of the complaints of our employers, that a lot of people coming out of schools today just are not ready to work. They say they're ready to work, but they really aren't ready to work. They don't show up on time. They look at their needs. I mean, I understand it. Everybody has needs, but the trend of the population of the worker today isn't exactly a match in a manufacturing setting. And so we're looking for programs that can create a better graduate. The Oregon Department of Employment, again, probably a Graham Slater product, has recently estimated that it increased demand for new employees at 14.1% between 2006 and 2016. That's just the new employees. And so that's an additional 247,000 jobs that we have to educate in Oregon. And for every job opening that is due to economic growth, there's almost 2 job openings for replacement jobs of retirement. In the food manufacturing sector, that's more of a factor to us than the new graduates. And so at a recent meeting of our 16 executive board members that sit over the Northwest food processors, I asked for a show of hands of how many of the largest companies had done a retirement schedule database, which is simply retirement schedule planning. And only 2 raised their hands. And so I thought, well, these are the big boys. They've got the big brand names. So I asked them, well, what are you doing to replace your workforce? And they said they don't know what to do. They're frightened. And the discussions surround consolidating their national chain of several plants into fewer plants to match up the capacity of the educators to create the workforce. And so my message to you is that Oregon should be one of those states that wants to retain the food plants here of the ones that are connected to national organizations. One of those employers said that 45% of their employees were going to leave in the next decade. And so on an average, that's really concerning to the leadership of the industry. Another employer raised his hand. He said in some work units, 100% of their employees are going to turn over in the next 5 years. And they can't replace those 30 years of people that have learned things on the job that could write the book. And so we have their attention, and they're looking for solutions. 42%, I think in the same study, we found 42% of Oregon workers are 45 years or older. Some of the largest food processors that have finished their retirement data are really, I guess they're just besides themselves looking for answers. And so when you asked about partnerships in the previous discussion, that seems to be our number one strategy, is looking for partnerships with educators. So I think one of the things that I also took out of the Oregon employment data, the state's own data, an article was written by Brenda Turner, Replacing Workers, What Lies Ahead, is published last May. And of 13 industrial sectors across Oregon of employers, manufacturing was the one that had the highest percentage of replacement openings over the next decade. Manufacturing is 91%. We're going to replace 91% of the workforce in the next 10 years.